heterotrophic modes of nutrition. And what I told you previous day? I told you that the nutrition or the mode of nutrition through which organism can produce their own food. In today's class, we will talk about the heterotrophic mode of nutrition. In the previous class, we told you that the hetero means other or different, and of course the trophic comes from the trophos and it means the nutrition. I told you already. Okay, so let's begin today's class. Look at the board, heterotrophic nutrition. So I told you that in these kinds of nutrition mode, organism cannot produce its own food. Okay, then they depend on the plants or the autotrophs for their food and the necessary nutrients. And I told you some examples like the animals like us. We cannot produce our own food. We depend on the plants or the autotrophs or the green plants, I should say, for the food. So who are the heterotrophs? The heterotrophs are basically all the animals in the environment and some plants, those who don't carry the chlorophyll in the body parts of them. Because I told you that in the photosynthesis process, chlorophyll is an important ingredient. Okay. So the plants which do not carry chlorophyll cannot produce the food by the photosynthesis process. So some primitive plants and all the animals in our environment are heterotrophs, can perform the heterotrophic modes of nutrition. Well, so based on the foods they take, there are 4 types. The number 1 is parasitic, number 2 is saprophytic, number 3 is insectivorous, and last is symbiotic. Let's begin with the first one, that is the parasitic. Parasite or parasitic modes of nutrition completely depends on 2 different organisms. Okay, mind it, 2 different organisms. Suppose this is organism A and this is organism B. Okay, suppose B depends on A for the food. Okay, and A is the helper and B depends on A for the food. Then we call A as host or host body or host organism, and B gets benefited from the host. So we called B the parasite. Okay. So in the case of parasitic modes of heterotrophic nutrition, one organism is host and another is a parasite, where host helps the parasite for the food and the survival of the life, and parasite depends on host for the benefit. Okay. So what should be the examples? A plant known as cuscuta. Cuscuta is a plant that is a complete parasitic in nature and depends on other plants for their food. And in case of animal world, we already know that leeches. Leeches present in our scalp or head, that is a parasite and that depends on the scalp blood for their nutrition. So these are the examples of parasitic modes of nutrition. This is the example of plant and this is the example of animal parasite. Okay. This is the next type, that is the saprophytic. Okay. There are some organisms present in our environment that depends on the dead and decaying organic matter in the environment, like mushrooms. This is a very good example, very common example of mushroom. We are very familiar with, right? These are the mushroom called agaricus, and this is completely heterotroph. Why? Because this cannot produce their own food, and this depends on the dead and decaying organic matter on the environment. Okay, decaying means rotten. Okay, decaying means rotten. Dead and rotten organic matters are responsible for their nutrition. Okay, so these are also another type of heterotrophic modes of nutrition. So what is the example? Example is mushroom. Okay, and the third type is Insectivorous. From the term, vor means to bear or to eat, and insect we already know that, insect. So the type of organisms who take insects as their food, the term is called insectivorous type of nutrition. There are some types of plants having this kind of structure in their body. Just this structure is similar with the pitcher, and this plant is called pitcher plant. Okay, when an insect comes with this head region or tip region, the plant trap the insect and intake it. Insect is the protein source of the plant body, and through the trapping of the insects, the plant can eat the insect as their food. So this kind of plant in the environmental present, they take the insects as food. This is one example, and another example is Venus fly trap. Look at the word fly. That means this plant trap fly for their food or the proteinaceous source of food. Okay, so this is the third type of heterotrophic modes of nutrition. And the last is symbiotic relationship or symbiotic modes of nutrition. This is a mutual benefit relationship. That means, suppose this is organism A and this is organism B. Just like the parasitic mode, there is also association of two different organisms where both can benefit others, or both are benefited by the opposite. In case of parasite, one is only benefited and one is helper. Okay, and in this case, both get benefits from the other. So A help them and B help the A. Okay, so both get benefited from each other. So this is a symbiotic relationship. A very common example of symbiotic relationship in our environment is lichen. Have you seen this lichen in our large trees? Stem portion of the trees, large trees contain this kind of lichen or heterotroph organisms. Lichen has two different associations. One is algae and one is fungi. Algae is a primitive plant. I told that plant. So it contains chlorophyll. Algae contains chlorophyll. That means algae can produce their food. But fungi or mushroom is an example of saprophytic. Okay, fungi cannot produce their own food. Algae is autotrophs and fungi is heterotroph. So in this kind of relationship, algae provides fungi the food due to the photosynthesis process, and fungi provides algae the necessary ingredients to cook the food. Okay, so this is a very good example of symbiotic relationship in our environment. So children, these are the summarization of heterotrophic modes of nutrition. Okay, these are the 4 types and I told you all the examples. Okay, I hope this is very clear to you now. In the next class, we will talk about some other aspects in this chapter. Thank you.